Did you give a thumbs up, Christine? Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and call the Sherwood School Board to order for a work session on bond oversight and turn it over to Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Chair Allen. Tonight, we will skip past the follow-up to previous topics because I don't have any and go right to the SHS update, the new high school update. And Sean Walker is here from Skanska, and he's going to walk us through the outside of the building.
All right. Christine, are you going to do the pictures first or the video? Doesn't matter. Whatever you go, I'm ready.
Okay, it looks like it's going to be video first.
Okay.
Oh, give me a second. We're actually going to have to go to the photos because I do not have access to the video. It's saying I don't have permission.
All right. First one is laying the last brick. As you know, I think one of our attendees was on site a few weeks ago laying the last brick.
Yay, Sue.
And that's Sue. If you can't read her hard hat, she did a great job. And I don't know if she shared that with you guys, but it was really cool to see her out there. So. This is once you're in the main entry. I think everybody knew we had some issues with getting curtain wall glass installed. So this is looking into reception. This is about a week and a half ago. Now we have the main reception desk in, the lights are in, and the slat wall is also in. So those will be the next time you see it, hopefully in person. This is a side view of the courtyard. It is hard to get a picture that makes the courtyard really show. I mean, it's just an amazing place on this project, but once it got seated and the fence is installed, it's really coming together with the log benches and the different areas. It's a really cool place that I think the school is going to enjoy. And it's really hard to get a good photo. So I'm hoping everyone can see it soon. This is the media center with the wood wall installed. We just had a discussion today. It looks like we're about a week and a half from starting to move furniture into the media center. The books are coming. So that was a discussion earlier today. I think they're going to start on the 15th. And as you can see, we're very close and ready for them to start coming in.
We're going to have books in the media center. That's leading edge, isn't it?
Hey, we just put the shelves in. That's where we were told to put them in. Here we're jumping over to the theater. This is the flexible wood wall covering. As you can see, it's going up on the acoustic clouds on the ceiling. Right now, we're about 50% done between the clouds and the walls being installed, and it looks really good. And the first 3 clouds were done off of equipment from the stage, and those are now done and behind us. And so then we'll be working out in the auditorium, getting the rest of the clouds and walls installed. This is looking at the east end, or excuse me, the west end of the commons. You can see the vinyl graphic. I think you'd seen that before, but we now have the wood slat wall in underneath. That just got finished up last week and really makes it come together. It's kind of fun how you can only see through it on one end, and on the other end, it looks like an opaque wall. So that's fun how it works as you work your way across it. I think the next one is showing the commons ceiling. This finished up last week. You can see the clouds are in. You've got your little strips of open to structure, and then you've got your lights hanging, and it looks really nice. Those are the letters on the school that came out in the last, they were installed last week. So it's good to see that. And they spelled it correctly. I was watching almost every letter they put up, wanted to make sure that didn't have any snafus there. So then here's the latest aerial. This is on the 22nd, so this is a little over a week and a half ago. It still continues to change. There's been areas that have been seeded. There's been sidewalk that's been poured. There's been areas that have been paved. And I will spend a lot of time on that through the video, but that's the latest aerial, and I think he's coming out this week to finish, or to do another one, excuse me.
Is this aerial shot up on the website?
That aerial shot, I don't know.
Eric, I believe it is. I think we post all of the aerial shots and the videos to the Bond website.
Okay, thank you to Ken Bell for assisting in getting us a better link for the video. And Sean, I've got that ready if you are.
Sure. So right now we're looking at the front of the school. You can see the left side of the entrance. That's all concrete now. We poured that this week. We've also poured the concrete sidewalk that goes from the main entry right there all the way up this bus loop road that we're passing. And then that has also had the first lift of paving completed. So that's all black now, as well as the service yard that we're seeing. We can have blacktop in there. They've seeded pretty much the whole front of the school that we just saw and the bus loop area. They've seeded the back hill here that we're looking at. And the track is now all finished with asphalt paving. We're working on getting ready to do the actual track surfacing here in a few weeks. And that is the last remnants of any trees in that nursery there right above the stadium that you can see. So that shows you how many trees and bushes and plants have been planted around the site. The concessions building down here on our right, as we're working our way around, they start bathroom accessories and installing the toilet or the fixtures tomorrow. So those are going in, and then about a week from now, they'll have all those in, and then the bathroom partitions go in, and we'll get casework started next week. And we also have sheet metal siding on our sheet metal panels going on the roof. As you can see, the courtyard there, it's better. It helps see it. You got the log benches. We got the two areas are both seated now since we took this. The fence posts are in, and we're working our way around the CTE wing. You can see the fenced area out front, which showing all the big open panels going in for the shops. So I think that is, and then it's hard to tell from here, but you can see all the main entry glass that has been installed probably since the last time we were all, or this group was all together. And next week, you'll see a lot of the ceiling for that front canopy going in preparation for lights, and then finishing up the sidewalk in the main entry. So
I can't believe I haven't thought to ask before now, but memorial feature or any kind of identification signage for the stadium, is any of that there yet?
Jim or Ken, I don't know if there's any update on that. I know there was talk a long time ago, but hasn't resurfaced that I'm aware of.
This is Ken. There's initially no signage there, but we have areas identified where we can put up that signage. We just haven't created or adopted any signage for that at this point.
And what about the memorial feature?
Yeah, we have a wall, a solid concrete wall that's down at one end of the stadium that is designed to hang any of those memorial plaques or other features that we want to put up.
Got it. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Is it also on the agenda to talk about the roads, or is that coming up? Road progress?
Mike, that's a great lead in to
Okay.
Rick is going to cover the offsite update. So Rick, if you don't mind.
Good evening, Superintendent Cordy, Chair Allen, rest of the board, all the other project team. The road project has certainly been an interesting one for us from the start, and it continues to be interesting as we work through the construction. I think we've informed you in the past that the contractor Kerr had to repair and replace a fair amount of pipe up Haiti, and we're in a process right now where other pipe may need to be replaced. It has been videoed one time, and the video wasn't clear enough to show if what we saw was a scratch on the inside of the pipe, which would be acceptable, or a crack in the pipe, which would not be acceptable. Casey Cunningham, my project manager, kind of watching that one, was with the project team working on that today. They have finally agreed on a path to move forward on clarifying if there's scratches or cracks. It will delay the paving a little bit, but we still believe that the first lift of paving will be completed on all the roads, which would allow them to open it if that's in the contractor's best interest. And the second lift of paving should be completed in July. So in terms of will it be ready for school? Yes. We'll still need to work with the city. They have told us that we need access on paved surfaces with signage, with working street lights before we can get occupancy on the building. The good news is they have agreed that we can move the admin team in on June 15th, and they will just be seen as workers there on site, and we'll continue to work with the city on getting occupancy on the building. We believe we'll probably just let the occupancy on the building follow the roads. If we need to do something to get temporary occupancy on the building before the roads are complete, we have a plan to do that as well. Any questions about our exciting offsite project?
I had a question about what constitutes a completed road. Is that the first lift or the second lift?
Well, I think, good question. It wouldn't be completed until the second lift is on, but it is usable when we get the first lift on. And that's what we've done on Haiti and Kruger, and we're working on doing that on Elwert when they finish that as well. So it's going to be usable sooner than it will be completed, if that makes sense.
Hi, this is Sean. I forgot one kind of important topic on the high school update. There's some milestones along the way that are really critical for us, and today we actually got the state inspector to sign off on 2 of the 3 elevators. So that's a huge win on getting building turnover, and just wanted to share that. So those are in the that's over in the athletic wing and the classroom wing. So we have 1 left to go over in the auditorium.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Rick. John, we're going to come right back to you with the COVID-19 impacts. If you'd cover kind of the general impacts across all projects, that'd be fantastic.
Sure. Fortunately, there has not been a lot of additional items since our last chat. We've had a few little hiccups since then, but most for the high school, there's only 1 material that's outstanding from the list that was presented a couple weeks ago. Everything else is either on-site and installed or on-site and being installed. So it's good to see that. As for EST and DOT, we are still working through a couple small things, but for the most part, those are progressing, and there's not really any new items that are coming up, and I think that's a good trend to see. We start seeing materials showing up a bit more as expected, and we're not necessarily out of the woods, but we are definitely trending towards that direction versus where we were a few weeks ago and months ago, I guess, at this point. So I can say we've had a few individuals that have not felt well on projects, and they've gone home and then they've gotten cleared and come back, but we have not had any cases on side of any craft workers that I'm in. So Ken, oh, sorry. Thought he was punching himself. I was confused.
We were knocking on wood, Sean. It's a tradition around here.
No, I know exactly what he was doing.
Y'all were.
Yeah. And then I saw Dr. Cordy do it, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. Moving the goalpost, Jim. Moving the goalpost. So, any questions on that?
It's good to hear that supply chains have opened up. If you run across any N95 masks, let me know.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, I will move us on to transformations, and Ken's going to give us an update on our transformation projects.
Good evening. With our 4 transformation projects, we are full speed ahead. Beginning at the ridges, we have just about completed demo in the elementary music room, what was the ED music room, and the community room in preparation for the main office in that area. We have demoed the old home ec room, the boys locker room, which are becoming, the home ec room is being divided into 2 classrooms, and the boys locker room is becoming the new music room for that side of the building. We have removed the sinks from the science rooms that we're not using as future STEM rooms. There's some that are becoming regular classrooms, and we've removed the sinks from those and repairing the counters in those. You may have seen, if you've gone by this week, but they started doing the steel erection of the new entry canopy, and that's actually for the most part up. It was pretty surprising when I drove by yesterday to see it so far along. And just a lot progressing very, very nicely there. Believe it or not, even though it's only about a 10-year-old building, we've run into some unforeseen things in walls that we didn't know were there. You would think that wouldn't happen in a newer building, but it has. Luckily, they've been small things that we could make pretty easy adjustments to. Next is MST, and that project, the demo has gone very, very well. I think you'll see some pictures tonight of some interesting things where like the upper south wing, where there were 3 classrooms up there, and we're turning that into 2 science rooms with a prep room in the middle. And right now that's stripped out as 1 giant room, which looks pretty cool. We also have demoed all of the garage classrooms and the staff room, as well as those interior science rooms that are kind of in the middle part of that school for all the remodel and reshaping that's going on in there. There's been a lot of demo in the east wing in preparation for opening that up for an extended learning area and 6th grade lockers and those kinds of things, as well as some work in the media center and college and career center, where we're building a new community room and punching new doors through from the main hall and some things like that. And so that also has been going very, very well. We have a few issues outside with our site work in the back where they're doing the covered play area, just because there's a public water line that we found runs through and is not in the position that our partners at the city want it to be. And so they are making us move it. And so just a few things there that have slowed us down outside, not in a way that won't allow us to finish on time, just in a way that's more been annoying and expensive in that way. Next, EST. And as you know, this is our oldest building. Some of the drawings that we're working off of are from 1936, when the original construction of that part of the building. And as you can imagine, as we open walls, there's a lot of surprises. There's all kinds of things in the walls that the drawings don't say are there. And so that's been the biggest challenge on that, but that project is progressing really well. It's still mostly in the demo phase. We've had demolition, obviously, of the whole learning hub area, and they actually punched the holes through the ceiling this week for the skylights into the learning hub. There's been demolition of the old media center, demolition of the other areas of the school. We're doing significant improvements, like downstairs below the learning hub where the old wood shop was, and all of that is all opened up, and starting now to progress into the other areas, like even the 6th grade wing and places where we're doing some smaller work. And so that project is going well, although we are finding a lot of things that we didn't expect and having to kind of do a lot of bobbing and weaving, as it were, to get through a lot of that. And so there's a lot of Karina and I have had many conversations about what's going on at that school. So it's kind of a hourly thing, not even a daily thing with there every time they open a wall. But again, going well, on time, and we're feeling really good about it. The other project is DOT, and you may have seen this week they took down the portables. There, remember at one point we had sold 2 of those portables, but with the whole COVID thing, school districts were very tight on budgets, and we couldn't. The district who had chosen to buy them pulled out, and we could not find another buyer, so we ended up demolishing them. And so that occurred this week. A lot of work on the outside, removal of the previous playground, starting to form the driveway that goes around the back of the school. Inside the school, you wouldn't even recognize it. Complete demolition, many areas opened up, and just a lot of work. They had to do a fair amount of abatement there, just because it's an older building with some things. Also had a lot of unforeseen issues as we opened walls and those kind of things. There's some challenges we've come into, like in the primary part of the primary wing of the building, there's an old flat roof there that has asbestos in it, and then they built a sloped roof over the top. So that's created some challenges for us as we're trying to do things like take electrical to new offices inside of areas and things like that. But we've been able, again, that's a little bit like the EST one, where about every couple hours we're dealing with some new issue. But Skanska has been a fantastic partner with both those projects, and we've been able to work through those things. Also wanted to thank Skanska for working with us to help us create the Hopkins promotion night that'll go on next week on June 10th. And they moved their workday early and are knocking off early so that we can have the site for those kids and families and staff to have that final goodbye on that site, since they were able, weren't able to do anything at the end of their school year. We really wanted to create them with an opportunity to get back on that site and at least say goodbye on the site in front of the school. And so really thankful for their partnership on that and us being able to do that. And that's it on our transformations. And I take any questions you might have.
Thanks, Ken. I would add that I would like to thank Skanska for being a great partner. Even just this week, they came to us and said, hey, if you do it this way, in terms of some carpeting issues, you can save a significant amount of money. And so I always appreciate having an extra dollar in the bank for us. So thanks to Skanska for continuing to work in that manner with us.
A quick question. So
Sure.
on 610, there's going to be people on the Hopkins site for a ceremony. Is what part of the building areas are they using, and how is that affecting construction? I mean, construction, the whole building seems to be walled off. I mean, how are they going to be doing that?
That's a good question, Mike. And all of it will be outside. And I think it's on the board agenda for the actual board meeting to get kind of an update on 5th grade promotion. So I may defer real questions to that point. Heather, am I correct or not?
This is Heather. The focus later is on what's going to happen for transitions for 5th graders to 6th grade and 8th graders to 9th grade. But yeah, the promotion ceremonies, Mike, are outside, and we worked really closely with elementary principals to make sure we were adhering to OHA and ODE guidelines around promotion and celebration events of that nature.
And will board members be able to participate in those middle school promotions?
This is Heather again. So just now was describing the 5th grade promotions.
Yeah, I guess I jumped. Sorry, I jumped.
Promotions, we will, board members will have the opportunity to sign up in a similar way as you did with the high school graduation ceremony. We, as far as I know, and I'm looking at you, Christine, for a little bit of help, I don't think we've received that from the middle level yet.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And without further questions, I'll move us along to the financial summary. Not super interesting. We are picking up speed on spending with the transformations, which is to be expected as we've now entered construction. And then the high school, I think we will start to see the numbers taper off. In fact, this month is quite a bit lower than last month, and that may be due to a slowness in documentation, or just we spent less this month. But we're sitting at about 82% of expected expenditures. So there's not any questions about that. I will actually move us along to our focus topic. And much like last month, where you got to see a construction site tour of the new high school with Karina in the lead, she's going to give you a little bit of a construction site tour of 2 of our transformation projects, and then some additional photos of the other transformation projects. With that, I will turn it over to Karina.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, Chair Allen, members of the board, all of my beloved district folk. This is going to be a little bit rough in the sense that Zoom, you actually have to choose windows. So you'll see me kind of sharing my screen, unsharing my screen, and then resharing it. But we're going to start the tour tonight at the district office transformation. So we will begin with construction site. As you can see here, this is the old main entry. So you can see that really what they've done, as Jim said, these photographs were taken now last Friday. And you can see that the majority of this is really just preparing for construction, right? This building has now been turned over to them for about 2 weeks at this time. So that's kind of what you're seeing in the main entry. But they have begun demolition kind of throughout the building. This is what used to be the old staff room. A lot of asbestos abatement, so you can start to see kind of the flooring that has been torn up. Ceilings going down, walls going down, holes being cut in for future offices or doors that were there. I'm kind of in what was the old staff room. So again, if you can see the lower part of my screen, it's hard to see kind of where you are from here. But this is the old staff room that was kind of right as you walked in the front door there. So here now we're kind of moving towards that boardroom corridor. Unfortunately, we don't have updated photographs within what will be the boardroom. In this view, you'll get to one here in a little bit. What was the old media center that will be converted into the boardroom. But again, really, it's just kind of preserving what we can of the existing flooring while doing demolition kind of around those areas. So now we've gone into that space. You can start to see some of those elements that sometimes are not where we anticipated they would be. So, you know, a lot of coordination, both in terms of holes in the ground that we don't anticipate and stuff above us that we don't anticipate. But this is all getting cleared out. This will all become kind of, your vantage point is kind of high here. So this will all become kind of the boardroom. This gets cleared out and becomes a rather large opening. This is now working our way in one of the old classrooms. So again, you can see where we are here. Down here, let me pan out so you could see. This is what will be eventually the IT kind of technology wing of the building. So just in various forms of demolition throughout the building. This is kind of what the typical classrooms look like right now. This is where we're working to try and ensure that where walls remain, we can get power to where we need them. I think there was I don't know, Ken and Jim, probably a 4.5, maybe 5-hour meeting on site, just walking every room to ensure that we could get power to where we needed it to support future furniture and desks. Working our way outside. This is basically right as you enter the parking lot adjacent to the building, what will kind of be that share drive. You can start to see construction or demolition, I should say, here. And then continued demolition. So this is where the old playground was, play structure was. So that has all come down. This is the covered play area that will become storage, and kind of working through that area. So I'm going to stop sharing again and then resume, because I do have some photographs to share with you of other areas of the site that have been demolished. Second. Okay, now I will share my screen. So this is again that back road. Now you can start to see kind of the extent of the demolition in that area. More of kind of that same. This is that road now heading back. These are actually as of today. So you can even see between Friday the 29th when those were taken and today how much work is occurring on site. This is the old area where the trailers, the portables were, that have now been demolished, and the old covered play area that has been demolished as well. So making great progress. We start to transition now from demolition to build back, but you will still be in kind of all phases of abatement, demolition, and build back for a while here. I'm going to pause for any questions about the district office transformation while I get us set up for I'm going to go actually to the ridges next, but if anyone has any questions, by all means.
I am kind of sad to think of district staff not having access to a play shed and playground equipment.
I think they probably will be too.
Hey, Karina.
Yes.
Are the playground equipment, was that at the end of its useful life and therefore needing to go to the playground in the sky, or is that stuff that we can find a place to donate that and in reuse in a place that may not have resources to get perhaps newer equipment?
Yeah, so that's a complicated question in the sense that kind of it's hard to move play structure equipment because of sort of code implications, of safety implications. Most of it was demolished. There are pieces, I believe, that were salvageable, but I believe everything that was back behind the district operations center, Sean, give me a nod, was all demolished and was not salvaged. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's pretty much all gone. There were conversations that we had, but it kind of went along the same lines as when they were looking for portables. You know, COVID hit, and then things just didn't. There was no path to get it somewhere, so they're all kind of in the sky now, as you put it.
This is Jim.
No.
I spent quite a bit of time researching and talking with playground companies about moving it, and essentially no one would recertify that it was safe.
Mm.
And once that becomes the issue with the litigious nature of folks, it was deemed that we just had to demolish it. And I couldn't even get them to move it from our own location to our own location.
Wow.
Companies wouldn't do it, and they wouldn't certify it.
Well, thanks for trying. I was just curious from a stewardship standpoint. I appreciate that you all looked into it and completely understand the liability concerns. So thank you.
No worries. If there aren't any other questions, I'll move quickly to the ridges, I think. Okay, so you can see here the new main entry in front of what was the old community room is being constructed, both along the exterior and then also along the interior. So this is what will now be a window from the admin office looking out back through that main entry here. And this is another place, as Ken was saying earlier, not a very old building, but there were elements that weren't quite how we imagined them. So having to make some adjustments, but for the most part, kind of working through those fairly quickly. I will knock on wood. More areas in the admin. So here you can start to see not only has demolition begun, but starting to look at kind of what what pieces we could start putting back together. Both there, you can really start to see where you are here. So this is the old entrance of what was the Edie Ridge reception area, and it is will now be transitioned to a music room, the primary music room. This was the old principal's office that again is going through that admin transformation. The old health room, or the new health room area in the admin core. This is the area that Ken was talking about earlier, the old fax room that will become 2 classrooms. So this is looking east and then looking west towards that same space. A lot of equipment and infrastructure that had to be kind of put back in walls and taken out to make way for classrooms in those areas. This is the old locker room, which will become the intermediate music room on the Laurel Ridge side, the old Laurel Ridge side. And the only other piece of sort of exterior building construction that we have there is, if you recall, we are enclosing what was kind of an exterior extended learning area to make it match its partner both above and then also on the primary side of the building. So you can start to see taking advantage of that undercroft and moving that wall that you see there, that window wall out, and then having this become new interior space to provide extended learning area for students. So those are the pieces at the ridges. Any questions while I do my little shuffle to the middle school transformation? Okay, bear with me. Okay. Okay. Should be seeing now, we've transitioned to the middle school transformation. So we're in the media center, looking back towards what was kind of classroom adjacent to the media center that will become the new community room, kind of an enclosed space there. And then new doors kind of out back to the main corridor at the front entrance there. This is what was kind of the old photo lab part of the school that will become classroom space, extended learning space. So you can start to see kind of we are in all levels of demolition. This is the exact space, except looking now outward from the photo lab to across the hall, essentially, in the future 6th grade wing. This is an area also in the 6th grade wing where we were coming in to create extended learning areas. This whole room essentially gets the walls torn out. An area where we encountered structure that was very different from what the existing drawings showed. So having to make some adjustments, but we'll still be able to kind of utilize this as an extended learning space. That was a view looking into that space. This is now from within that space looking out to try to provide that sense. Yes, sir.
I'm not seeing photos advance. I don't know if anybody else is or not.
No, me either.
I wasn't seeing them.
Oh,
We're still looking at the media center photo. Or at least I was.
okay. Okay.
Whew, I feel better because I thought I was just not
Losing it.
not doing something right.
Okay, now can you see?
I now see all the metal
Yes.
steps.
Are you seeing them change now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, so no worries. Thank you for letting me know. So now again, we're at the photo lab, that open classroom now that is being torn apart for future kind of open connection and classroom space. This is the extended learning area that I was talking about. So here again, where we'll introduce both extended learning area and also lockers for the 6th grade wing, because we did not have lockers kind of in the proximity of where kids will be. This is from the outside, kind of the corridor, looking back towards the extended learning area. And this is now the other view of that. So that, as I was saying, this is one of those rooms where the structure was not at all what we thought it would be. So we're having to make some adjustments on the fly to make that work. Now we're inside the future extended learning area, beautiful ceiling. We'll get to take advantage of within that space. This is the old staff dining, future science. So kind of in that hub that is adjacent to or across from the media center, kind of some dark rooms that are getting opened up and lit up to provide new science spaces. This is kind of looking from the other direction in that same space. As you can see, there's a variety of structure that we're encountering, as well as kind of utilities. The old metal shop has been kind of torn apart. This will become a future maker space. So really repurposing that, ensuring that it kind of continues to serve its CTE function. The old Strut classroom will become a new general education classroom, significant amount of abatement you can see in here, and then kind of panning through that. This is the area that Ken was talking about, which is what were 3 classrooms that will become 2 future science classrooms on the 2nd floor of the middle school transformation. So this is where you can really start to see what those look like when those walls between them were torn apart. So that is the middle school transformation. Okay, bear with me. We're going to do one last one, which is actually, I think, one of the funnest ones for me to share with you, which is the elementary school transformation. This is the one that, if you recall, got started early. It was always our intention to start this at spring break. And so now that we've been able to kind of accelerate other portions of the building, you'll start to see they took advantage of that as well. I want to confirm that you guys can see the instruction site. Okay, I'm going to start panning. So this is having walked in the front door, working our way back towards the opening of what was the old gym will now be the learning hub. So all of the work has occurred here to remove lockers, which were kind of intermittently located everywhere, starting to create these openings into the learning hub itself. And you can just really start to get a feel for that. I have a photograph. These again were taken, I think these were actually taken on the 27th of May. I have a photograph from today where they've actually now cut the holes in the ceiling to allow for future skylights, but really starting to transform this space, doing work both above and below to prepare this to get a major opening here to connect the upper level to the lower level. Now we're on the opposite end of that. So kind of by the stage, looking back, you can start to see they've torn apart the walls here to provide that sense of connection between what was the learning hub and now will be classrooms. You can really start to see that open up. Will be even more so once we get the hole in the floor here and once this starts to open up. But still we'll always kind of retain that sense of legacy of the space that it was before. So more.
Could we on the old gym there? Can you kind of outline where the hole will be, and how big is it? Like
it's here.
A third the size. Of the room?
It is between the amphitheater stair that kind of surrounds it, the gathering area, and the hole itself. It's probably a third of the space. You can actually see it here. I'm going to pan out just a little bit. So it's hard because they have all their camera views, but this is the opening we're talking about. So this is the gathering area. This is kind of crossing that threshold. If you can see where my little hand is, this is crossing the threshold from the old corridor into the learning hub. This is the opening that has the stair going down. And then you can sort of see the extent of that opening there. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4 full bays into the space. So 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of up until this space is where you can kind of see the opening below. Does that give you perspective?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Any other questions before I move on? Okay, so now in kind of the corridor headed down that hall, essentially. So again, you can just start to see a lot of locker removal. There was a lot of abatement found, a lot of asbestos found underneath those lockers that we had to abate, or that Skanska had to abate. And then working our way now down towards the old wood shop. So now we are directly under the old gym, so kind of the learning hub area. So you can start to see the structure that supports all of that roof up above. So this is where you'll see openings that kind of connect down. This is, there's actually a classroom that is built here. And then as we work our way this way, which we will in our next photograph, this is the structure that supports the columns that will support the new opening. So really kind of taking advantage of that area there. And just really trying to create as dynamic spaces as we can with all of the spaghetti and both of electrical and mechanical that we're finding here, to ensure that we're trying to raise the roof, quite literally put our ceilings up as high as we can, while not incurring significant additional costs to move some structure that we're finding. This is the old media center, I believe, yes. And finally, kind of the area back behind school where we have the feature that you can see here in the view, both takes advantage of the existing hillside to provide play equipment, and then also the actual play structures themselves in that area. The last thing I want to share with you, which I'm hoping will work, is they sent me today video of, oh, bear with me. So this is a walking tour, kind of 360. I can pan around of, more importantly, that's the existing school, but stuff that used to be here. So if you have not driven past the old Sherwood Middle School, you can really start to see the extent of the demolition. I think they actually had video of it crunching the portables, but I thought that might have been a little too painful for some folks, so, or too celebratory. So that is, those are your transformations in a nutshell. Any questions?
So Karina, and maybe this is a better question for Jim, all of the unexpecteds that we're finding, did we have a line item for unexpected, or does that all come out of contingency?
It essentially comes out of contingency.
And are we feeling good that we're at a point of demolition where we're gonna have known unknowns as within the next few weeks, or are we still a ways out from knowing whether or not we're going to be able to manage the unknowns within contingency, and that we're running into challenges, or kind of where are we at in that phase?
I'd like to say we're going to have no more unknowns, and I think we're close to kind of being with to the end of demo, where that will definitely taper off. But Rick and I are looking at numbers and always trying to pay attention to that. It's not concerning, but we are getting down to the end of our projects, and you know, it's tight and we have other needs, and so we'll be watching closely. But at the moment, I feel pretty confident we're in good shape with contingencies we have, and kind of the remainder of time that we might have unknowns. I don't mean to be evasive. It's just we've got some more to do, and we just don't know what will show up, but I feel pretty good at the moment.
No, that makes total sense. And I just, you can't control that. And I totally get that's why we have a contingency. But just kind of curious on how far out we are. I understand our friends at the city have added to our opportunity to use contingency at the middle school transformation site. Have they decided whether or not we have done our fair share on roads? Maybe a useful way to help balance some of that behavior out.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica, this is Heather. Are you asking about the charges and getting those back
Yeah.
in that whole process?
Yeah.
They've been clear that the 1.2 million that we have in fees, our portion of the work that's creditable for the offsite work should exceed that. It's a matter of how does those resources get returned to us. And actually we've deferred the payment. And so there's kind of just some logistical pieces to how that works.
So we haven't actually paid it to them. They do not need to write us a check.
Correct.
Okay. That's helpful.
Yeah. And we are counting on that money to take care of some of the expenses that we have remaining.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick question. You mentioned the asbestos abatement. Has that been about at what we expected it would be? Any surprises there? Any additional costs? A lot more than we thought there would be, you know?
So I was, oh,
Go ahead, Karina.
thank you. So I will say in old buildings, you're always kind of stumbling across it. I think the district has done an incredible job in previous renovations to abate the pieces they've come into contact with. So the places that we're finding are pretty obscure, like under existing lockers that have been there since the 30s, as an example. But for the most part, everything that we had was planned abatement, and we have a plan in place with a district consultant that is managing and overseeing whenever we come across any new, whenever Skanska or whatever contractor comes across any new asbestos and get it abated in a timely manner. But nothing out of the ordinary, I would say.
Thank you.
I just want to make a quick comment about just kind of the state of the work sites that we have and just how relatively clean and in good shape that they are. And I know these aren't staged photos where we went through and cleaned everything up. This has been consistent throughout the last 2 years of projects. And, you know, as a owner of this, I appreciate the state that those sites are always in.
Right. Any contractor will tell you a safe site, a clean site is a safe site. So I think all 4 of our contractors take that very seriously.
Although Sean did ask me recently when we were walking through the new high school and there were footprints of dust in different spaces. He's like, how do you clean or how do you keep a building this big clean with 1,600 kids in it? Like, well, 1,600 kids or 200 contractors, it's kind of the same. If there's no other questions for Karina on any of the transformation projects, that brings us to the end of our agenda this evening. So I'd kick it back to you, Director Allen.
All right. Any final questions, comments, or anything anyone has for this topic?
Just a comment. I mean, it's as far as the transformations are concerned, it's always amazing to see those demolition pictures. You know, the way all, you know, with all the stuff out, the bare concrete, and then a few weeks later, it looks beautiful with all the finishing in and stuff like that. It's just wow. I mean, it's very impressive. And regarding the high school site, I mean, it's such a beautiful facility. You've done such a great job on that. So I wanted to, you know, make sure that was stated. So thank you.
As if these buildings would be transformed.
Well, I was just going to say, at the moment, it feels like we've bought ourselves an entirely new school district from a physical plant standpoint.
And I just wanted to say real quick, amazing work. It's so fun to see these pictures. Can't wait to see the finished products by you, Karina, and the entire team. So thank you.
Anybody else? If not, then we are adjourned from our work session and we will reconvene for the regular board meeting at 7.
Thanks, everyone.